CBD is a game changer sweeping the nation. This hemp extract is the natural way to elevate your mood, eliminate aches and pains, reduce anxiety, and keep you sleeping all night long. It can even cut your workout recovery time in half. Get in the game today with 20% off all orders of CBD and lavender products from Lavender Lane, a lavender farm located right here in Milan, Michigan. Just go to lavenderlanemi.com today and enter coupon code Detroit for 20% off your entire order. Guys, look, these amazing products are infused with calming lavender to maximize their effectiveness, meaning your CBD items only take minutes to take effect, which is way quicker than those pills you were about to swallow. On top of it, they are perfect for men and women. Lavender Lane has lab-tested CBD creams, tinctures, and roll-ons that are perfect for any situation, even if you're on the go. Put your health back in your hands by heading over to lavenderlanemi.com and entering coupon code Detroit for 20% off your entire order of CBD and lavender products. What do you have to lose? Your satisfaction is guaranteed or your money back. So if you need lavender gifts for your loved ones or just looking for the natural way to ease your discomfort with CBD, go to lavenderlanemi.com and use coupon code Detroit to unlock these miraculous benefits of CBD and lavender. That's LAVENDERLANEMI.com. And remember, use coupon code DETROIT for 20% off your CBD and lavender products from Michigan's own Lavender Lane.
This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Detroit is the greatest!
Straight up light you on fire for a Coney dog right now.
Darren McCarty comes back with Neiman in front of him. McCarty draws. McCarty in. McCarty! A magnificent goal! Darren McCarty!
Stafford takes, throws, end zone, Calvin, touchdown, Detroit Lions!
Welcome in, everybody, to the latest edition of the Motor City Sports Rant here on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. I am the Doc, John Macaroon. I had a conversation with Jason Jarvi earlier today regarding the Detroit Lions. Early this morning, I said, Jason, look, you want to talk the Detroit Lions, Michigan State? And like always, he always jumps at the chance. We love putting out editions of the Motor City Sports Rant. And however we will bring it to you, we will deliver content, great Detroit sports content. On this edition, we break down the Detroit Lions, their loss to the Kansas City Chiefs. I get Jason's sense of, is it a moral victory? Do you give the Detroit Lions credit for hanging in and competing against the Chiefs? Or do you get mad and say they made too many mistakes? They had the opportunity to win the game, but they failed to deliver. They made too many critical mistakes in this contest in order to get the victory. Will the Lions ever correct those mistakes? Because the first quarter of the season is now over, and the Detroit Lions sit at 2 wins, 1 loss, and 1 tie. And one of the themes that is constantly brought up in the press conferences after the games is Matt Patricia says, I got to coach better. I have to teach these guys to pay attention to the details, and we will get there. But in terms of the play on the field, the Detroit Lions are a good team. Everyone knows it. They've seen it. And they were able to limit Patrick Mahomes. They made a lot of good plays, 3 forced fumbles in that third quarter. There was a lot of positives, but at the end of the day, many people are going to remember the negatives, the things that the Lions did not do well that cost them the game. And those are the fine points, those moments right then and there when Kerryon Johnson fumbles the ball, when there are critical mistakes, when you don't execute on a 4th and 8. Those are the differences, those small differences, those 1 or 2 plays where if they don't go your way, that's the difference between winning the Super Bowl and not. And I want to get Jason's sense of how he views the Detroit Lions. And in the second half of the podcast, we'll break down Michigan State, how we see, this upcoming matchup against the Ohio State Buckeyes. I think going into it, I know that Jason and I, a little bit nervous. 17.5-point spread. People are nervous, definitely in East Lansing, that it's going to get out of hand. Ohio State is legit. Ryan Day is an OG. And hopefully Mark D'Antonio dials up a plan, a recipe for success. So here it is. Here's my conversation with Jason. Thank you so much. You can find all the podcasts that we record and release every single day anywhere that you download your favorite podcast. We greatly appreciate it. Thanks, everybody.
Jason, what's up, my friend?
Not much. How about yourself?
I'm doing good, man. Looking at the Detroit Lions from a different lens.
I think a lot of people garnered a lot more respect for the Lions after that game. But I'm interested to get your sense of the Lions and the Chiefs. The Lions did make mistakes that cost them the game. Obviously, we can pinpoint a couple plays that hurt the Detroit Lions. But by and large, I know people say it's a loser's mentality to talk about moral victories and that the Lions could have beaten the Chiefs team who didn't play as good as, maybe many expected, and the Lions failed to capitalize. But at the end of the day, the Chiefs are better than the Lions. It's a fact. And the Lions hung in there, and there are things that the Lions can take away that maybe could produce a solid season this year in 2019.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm going to call it a moral victory because it's still a loss, but it's a loss that I'm not as upset about because going into that game, nobody really gave the Lions a chance. I mean, as much as whatever I would say, I really had no hopes of them slowing down that Kansas City Chiefs offense because even though Tyreek Hill is out, they've shown in the first couple of weeks of the season that they have other weapons and that Patrick Mahomes, he just is a very, very good quarterback, probably one of the top quarterbacks now in the league now, if not the best. And they were going to just put up points on us at will. And you saw that the Lions were able to put pressure on them. And it was a little bit confusing because it always seems like the Lions, they kind of play up to the level. And then, the teams that aren't as good, they like to play down to that level. So, but going into this game, I'm not as upset because they really were in it all the way up until the end. Yeah, there were mistakes. I think you have to pinpoint the fumble return for the touchdown. I think that was probably the moment of the game that really changed everything. But, the Chiefs had the ball at the end of the game, and that's how it ends. We didn't really get a chance to, or at least a very good chance to, come back and maybe snatch victory from defeat.
Oh, Jason, it was such a good game to be at. But have you seen a quarter that was so unusual like we witnessed in that third quarter with all the fumbles, with the injury to T.J. Hawkinson? It was surreal to witness and to be a part of because of the fact it was a 13-13 game, and the Chiefs have the ball because they won the toss to begin the game and they elected to defer. They get the ball and immediately they fumble. But you realize that in the NFL, if you are lucky enough to get a turnover and you fail to capitalize, you fail to score touchdowns and extend leads and things like that, it really can come back to haunt you. The Lions were able to punch the ball away several occasions, 3 times, I believe, in that third quarter, but they weren't able to really dictate play or establish a big lead. It was such an unusual, surreal experience to witness.
Yeah, it was just it's definitely an interesting quarter. And it kind of evens itself out because as much as the Lions made mistakes, the defense was really keeping us in the game. And, yeah, another point you want to point to is, the defense should have stopped the Kansas City Chiefs on that fourth down. And that again might have been the game right there for the Lions. But it's a lot of good, it's a lot of bad, and it kind of evens out for me in this game.
Okay, so how do you look at this game? Do you blame the Lions for their mistakes? I mean, you can, obviously look at the referees and some of the situations in which they hindered the Detroit Lions' cause, or you say to yourself, look, at the end of the day, you had one play, and for the Detroit Lions to be a good team, you got to execute on that 4th and 8. You can't let a miscommunication happen and 2 guys go cover the running back, and you leave the quarterback, who everyone knows has the ability to scramble. He made plays throughout the game. You can't just let him earn that first down. Come hell or high water, that 4th and 8, you can pinpoint it there, or you say, okay, you've given up that 4th down. Now you have to do everything possible not to allow that touchdown, especially if you're a defense. And that's the part that in my recap video on SI I said was, that's what you wanted. You wanted. At the end of the day, that's what I wanted to see. It was Kansas City's offense versus the Lions' defense. And I wanted to see it at that point in the game. Could the Lions make that play? And they couldn't. And I know it's just tough because we have a defensive coach. That's the part that riled me up was it's mano a mano, strength versus strength. And at the end of the day, still it's an offensive league. And if you have supreme talent and you can execute in the key moments, kind of starting to lean like, you know what, I might rather have the supreme offensive talent. But maybe, just maybe, in those playoff games, in those big games when it's crunch time and the pressure is heightened by 50 degrees, maybe the defense will, at the end of the day, when it's mano-a-mano, strength versus strength, maybe Matt Patricia's defense will come through. But seeing it there, I was just kind of bummed out because at the end of the day, Matt Patricia's a defensive coach, and the mistakes were made on his side of the ball.
Yeah, but I think what we've seen this year, and I think what we're going to see going forward, is that our defense, it really is, it's a bend, don't break defense. And, that's what Matt Patricia was when he was in New England, that you would see teams put up yards and sometimes put up points against Matt Patricia defenses. But at the end of the day, they get the job done. And for most drives, the defense was holding the Chiefs. And because the fact that we were even in that game, I was just expecting Patrick Mahomes to be able to go out there with no Darius Slay, that he was going to be able to air that ball out to his receivers and DeMarcus. Sammy Watkins, and then you throw in Travis Kelce, and you just feel like you really don't have a shot against all those offensive weapons. You want to talk about the Lions at some point having a ton of offensive weapons. We've never even seen anything like what the Kansas City Chiefs have right now. And the fact that they were able to slow them down, hold them to what we did, it's a testament to what Matt Patricia, what he's doing with this Lions team. And I think there has to be optimism going forward that we were able to go up against one of the premier offensive teams in the league. And we were, at the end of the day, we gave up those points, and there's not much we could do. But also, Patrick Mahomes is an MVP for a reason. He is that good. And more times than not, MVP candidates are going to make those plays. But you're not going to be playing MVPs every single week. So I think there's got to be hope going forward for this Lions team.
See, I want to push back a little bit because in the biggest game that we've seen Matt Patricia coach in the last time, it was the Super Bowl. It was the Eagles. It was a backup quarterback. I know that many people will still give respect to Nick Foles, but at the end of the day, you see that the Eagles were able to march down the field and make plays and really kind of dictate to Matt Patricia's defense, what was going to happen. And so you look at that and you go, well, right then and there after that game, Matt Patricia goes on and he becomes the head coach of the Detroit Lions. It's just tough because it's that age-old question. Would you rather have the offense or would you rather have the defense? And me personally, I want a defense, but it's in this league. Look, Matt Patricia's defense still gave up well over 30 points. They didn't hold the Chiefs to under 26. And partly, you can blame some of the mistakes. I mean, I think the key play that many people are going to pinpoint is Kerryon Johnson. We have the ball. We're driving. The Lions are about to punch it in or at least, score a field goal. And Kerryon Johnson just has to – I think it's an instinct, too, because you wonder why these guys would hurdle or why these guys would reach their arms out to extend, the football, even though Johnson said that they were taught, do not ever, ever, ever extend the football. That's when it gets punched out. They know this, but I think it's just an instinct. It's a football instinct that, you're right there. If you just stick your hand out and you cross the plane, you get a touchdown. But it's a weird play. All of a sudden, the play's ending. Everyone's kind of like, okay, he didn't get in. Did he get in? And then you start to see the commotion, and there's a Chief just kind of jogging kind of slowly towards the other end zone. And everyone's kind of thinking, okay, it's one of those plays where they're just going to bring it back and things like that. But then they review it, and the heightened anxiety starts, and everyone's like, wait a minute, this could be a touchdown. This could be a touchdown. They come back and they announce it, and it's a touchdown. And when you watch the film, I hope you do take advantage. Watch that play because Kenny Galladay basically just gives up on the play. He could have made the tackle and stopped, the play, and it speaks to the notion that you got to play to the whistle. That's the rule. That's the first thing they tell you is play until you hear that whistle. But at the end of the day,
you play to the whistle. You play to the whistle, but then I would love to see that play, played out amongst all the different the referee crews because I feel like that play is going to be called differently every single time. Because the reason that play even happened is because the crew didn't blow the whistle. And in my mind, that play was dead. You know, they were in a pile. It was over. And I'm sure that's absolutely what Kenny Galladay thought, is that the play was dead and they probably didn't hear the whistle. It's a tough call, because I absolutely believe that different referee crews would have blown that play dead, and it wouldn't have been a touchdown because the play would have been over. It might have been a turnover at that point, but at least it would have saved a touchdown for the Lions. And I'm not blaming that on the referees. I'm just saying that's a fact, and that would have happened. It's the toss-up that can happen every week, and you hope that you're on the right side of those kinds of calls. And obviously the Lions weren't on this side this week.
Yeah, but I think the learning opportunity comes in is that if you don't hear the whistle, tackle the guy. Don't ever assume that the play's over, especially in this NFL, because of the fact that, you know, sometimes maybe the crowd might overshadow the officials. You might not hear it. You got to play as if, I guess I would say, and just not let someone run free, especially when the football's ripped out and things like that. So it was tough. Yeah, it was a momentum swing, a 14-point swing. Kerryon Johnson comes out and says, yeah, it's my fault. I was taught never to extend the ball. I'll never do it again. And the one thing I'll say, though, Jason, is after the game, it was their first loss, you are starting to hear similar traits from the players in the locker room to their head coach, Matt Patricia. They didn't want to talk about moral victories. They didn't want to talk about the respect and things like that. They just said that, hey, we got to, in those crunch moments, we got to pay attention to details. We got to be better. We got to be accountable to each other and things like that. So that was a little bit different from the things you've heard in previous years. And it's starting to sound like, okay, you know what? There's a family going on. There's a respect level there between the players and their coaches. They're starting to sound like their head coach, and it bodes well. I think that the players know, okay, yeah, it's a tough game. There were some things that they did not take advantage of, but I think as a team, they do believe, like, okay, you know what? We can play with anybody. If we do these couple things, if we listen to the coach, you know, without Quandre Diggs, without TJ Hawkinson, without Darius Slay, the Lions were still making plays. So the team had to see that, like, whoa, we're in this. You know, we have an opportunity to play well. We have an opportunity to be in the game against arguably the number one team in the entire National Football League. And I think coming out of the bye week, if they stick to what they believe in and what they're saying in terms of cleaning up the mess and cleaning up some mistakes on defense and some of the detail type stuff, this team could potentially run off a couple games in a row. I mean, you're going to Green Bay. That's going to be such a huge game, Jason, on the road, Monday Night Football. It has an opportunity to be one of those classic games where it goes back and forth. But I'm going to tell you this, Jason. I think for the season, obviously each game is important, but Monday night's game after the bye week, probably a huge game in the tenure of Matt Patricia. You lose that game, I think you lose the momentum that has started to be gained from the fan base if you don't come away from that road game with the victory.
Yeah, it really is. I think it will be tough. I hate to put any weight behind any one game and, you know, write them off after a certain loss here or there. But, I mean, there is something about this team right now that I think if they are able to go into Green Bay and get that win, you know, it does so much for the rest of the season. I mean, not only are you're beating a division foe, so you'd be 1-0 in the division. You're knocking down the Packers, so you're helping your own case to possibly make a run for the NFC North. You build on what you've started these first four games because everyone has written you off. You know, I know on this podcast you were talking about the Lions being 0-5 going into the season to start the season, and look, they're over 500 technically. So I think it's a very important game. I mean, every game is important, but it'll definitely be interesting to see what happens if they do go in. And I think if it's a close game, it might not be as bad. But if they go out into Green Bay and maybe they have a dud coming off of a bye week, I think that would be a little bit more detrimental to the team than anything.
Yeah, it's a likable team. I mean, I like a team built on defense. I like the fact that, hey, we can give credit even to Matthew Stafford. I mean, if dude is hurt and is laboring, it didn't show as much as we maybe would have thought on Sunday. He was zinging the football. And give credit also to offensive coordinator Darrell Bevell. He seems to realize, okay, there's a healthy balance between running and letting Matthew Stafford zing the ball all over the place. He has utilized Stafford's strengths. You're starting to see the old gunslinger back, and it's nice to see. It's nice to see a connection between Stafford and Galladay for 2 touchdowns. That's what's expected. It's nice to see Matthew Stafford trying to will this team to victory. It's nice to see some emotion from Matthew Stafford. So all in all, that performance on Sunday was, there was a lot to take away from it. But when you look at it, the part that we're all hoping is, can they indeed clean up the mistakes? That's the part that is, when you go out there day in, day out, Matt Patricia said that now for 4 weeks on the Monday after the game. We got to clean up the mistakes. We got to clean up the mistakes. Eventually speaking, maybe, an SI writer is going to have to just chime in and say, okay, you've constantly said, you want to clean up the mistakes, but is it ever going to happen? How do you clean up the mistakes? Is there enough practice time to ever do that? And do you just have to re-strategize and try something different? Because if they're going to make a mistake on the key plays every single time, it's going to be a nightmare. I don't know how they're going to, that's the fascinating part about football is, okay, do you have enough practice time to correct those mistakes? Can they be a smarter football team? And maybe, just maybe, 1 or 2 more draft classes with their guys and some free agents. Maybe we're starting to see the remnants of a real football team. And it's nice to see. It's nice to see Andy Reid come out after the game and say, whoa, that's a good team. Travis Kelce say, whoa, they battled us. They took us to the limit. And it's nice to see the respect that the nation is giving to the Detroit Lions, saying, look, they played well. They held their own. So it's going to be a fascinating look at how this team progresses in the next 3 weeks. I can't wait to watch and things like that. But before we talk about Michigan State, I want to ask you this. What's your assessment of the Detroit Lions at the bye week? What do you think of this team?
They're slightly above my expectations because I think going into this season, I thought that they were around 7-9, 8-8, and I think the fact that they've held their own after that first week, they've held their own against some very good teams in the Los Angeles Chargers, the Philadelphia Eagles, and now the Kansas City Chiefs. And it definitely gives me hope going forward that, maybe just maybe this team can maybe they can get to 9 wins, go to 9-6-1, and that might be good enough to eke into a wild card spot. And I'm not ready to say that they're going to go on some amazing run and somehow win 10 or 11 games, but I think there's optimism and hope that 9 wins for this team is achievable, and you might be looking at a wild card spot at this point.
Oh, a wild card spot. You're thinking this has a chance. What percentage chance the Lions make the playoffs?
I'll say 20% right now.
That 20% is fair. I think that the Detroit Lions have done some good things. I'd say maybe you're a little low. Maybe let's go 27% at this point.
Hey, if you want to do 27%, you can do that. I'm going to stick with 20 right now. We'll talk after week 5 and see if they beat the Green Bay Packers. Let's see what happens then.
All right, Jason, let's show love to one of the sponsors, the Motor City Pawnbrokers. The Motor City Pawnbrokers are the one-stop pawn shop when you're in need of short-term cash or are looking for quality, brand-name new, and pre-owned merchandise. With locations in Detroit, Ferndale, Roseville, and Warren, their mission is to deliver exceptional value. To learn about all the deals and the happenings and all the items that potentially you can grab at a discounted price, don't pay full price. Go check out MotorCityPawnbrokers.com. And if you're in the area, feel free to walk in. Mark and the crew have built their business for over a decade on one premise, great customer service. So feel free, go to the Motor City Pawnbrokers, ask for Mark, ask for one of the crew, and they'll take care of you. Let them know the Detroit Sports Podcast sent you. And again, today, go online, MotorCityPawnbrokers.com. Interesting stuff there in that, since our last recording, Mark D'Antonio has indeed broke the record. He is the winningest all-time coach. Great opportunity now to laugh at Michigan because they got destroyed by Wisconsin. Really a nothing game against Rutgers. You can't really glean too much away from that because of the fact that, hey, it's Rutgers and they're a joke and they've already fired their coach. But in turning our attention to Michigan State, I think one of the concerning aspects is, okay, you know what? Connor Hayward, he enters the transfer portal. You have a little bit of question marks regarding the Michigan State team. And now, especially when you're a team that's in search of an identity and, kind of playing up and down and not being as consistent as you would like, you're heading into Columbus to play Ohio State. Jason, I'm not really looking forward to this one because, yes, Mark D'Antonio's defense does some things and they have the ability to make plays and they're heralded and things like that. But this is a whole new level. Are you watching what Ohio State's doing? It's like they haven't fallen off. It's like they got, if you're into cars, it's like they got their turbo boost. They got their nitrous. And I feel like they're going to press it on Saturday and they're going to whoop our ass.
Yeah, I definitely don't feel comfortable going into Columbus. I never really do. And you can point to sometimes that, or the times that Michigan State has walked into Columbus and they've won some sort of shootout, or that, it was a rain game and it was just a slugfest. I have very little confidence that we're going to have that again this year. And, I like our defense. I think we do have a really good defense, but I'm just not sure. Justin Fields, J.K. Dobbins, and what they're doing in Ohio State right now, they really, there's no drop off after Urban Meyer left. And I think we're in a different age in college football, where college teams they're retooling. They are able to essentially go out and recruit guys and pick up guys who are amazing players. Michigan, they thought they had their guy in Shea Patterson, and if that would have worked out, it would have just infuriated me. But as you've seen around the league, Jalen Hurts goes from Alabama to Oklahoma, and he's a Heisman candidate. Justin Fields transfers from Georgia, goes to Ohio State. He's a Heisman candidate. And I'm worried about what's going to happen. I really don't want them to go in and just put up God forbid they go out and don't score a point. But I think even not scoring a touchdown would be it would be horrible for this program right now.
Yeah, was I accurate? Did I see that right? Is the point spread 17.5? Is that the point spread?
I don't know, but I would believe it at this point.
Yeah, I think the point spread opened up.
I might even take the over at this point.
Yeah, it's wild, the level of disrespect. I would, if you're a betting person, at least on Tuesday, I would take the Spartans plus 17.5. I think that they can maybe pressure them, but I don't know if it's going to get out of hand. But
they might be able to pressure them, but are they going to be able to score?
Right, that's the key. It might be a game where you lose 24-17, or you might be down a touchdown and you might have the opportunity late, but I don't see it. Not in Columbus. If this game was in East Lansing, it might be a little different. But yeah, can the Michigan State Spartans keep up with can they keep up with Ohio State? That's going to be the question. But a lot of fans aren't confident, and when we watch that game, we'll be sitting with our hands on our tushes, and we'll be sitting there going, whoa.
The key for that game is really going to have to be, can the defense get pressure on Justin Fields? And that'll be, what can they do? Can they get to him? Can they make him uncomfortable in this game? Because I think that's what he's had so far going in his games, that Ohio State hasn't really played, great talent. And I'm not calling Michigan State great talent, but they're definitely probably the best team they've played so far.
Yeah, and credit to Mark D'Antonio, obviously the winningest coach for the Michigan State football program. I know a lot of people now are down on the program, especially with that offense, but still got to give him credit for the tenure that he's had. It'll be interesting. Maybe he can shock the world. Maybe he can really shed light on his coaching abilities by going to Columbus and wrecking their season. That would be a sight to see, but not a lot of confidence there. But, hey, we're getting closer and closer to the matchup between Michigan and Michigan State, and I think it could be one of the closest battles of all time because they both have strength, they both have weaknesses, and against each other, I think it'll be an all-out, knockout, drag-out brawl. So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out going forward. But, yeah, I think both you and I will give our official prediction, loss. We don't see a victory coming out of this one. We just want to see a respectable performance. And, hey, even though we all say, hey, no moral victories,
if you come away and cover that spread, whatever it may be, 7-10, I know it's high. I do believe it's 17 when you look at it. If they come away with the ability to not get blown out, make some plays, keep it close, and you still lose the game, keep it moving, and you can continue your season. But it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough times, and I can't wait to recap it with you on next week's edition of the Motor City Sports Rant. Thank you so much, Jason. I always enjoy talking sports with you, two Spartans, letting it rip, talking about college football, talking about the Detroit Lions. It's going to be a good time. It's a good time for the bye week, too, especially for the Detroit Lions. They can clean up some mistakes, pay attention to the details, and they're going to have an opportunity to get after it. Monday Night Football in front of the nation. One more opportunity. Stafford Rodgers, maybe in our favor this time.
Yeah, we'll have to see.
Peace, Jason. Talk next week.
Later.
Okay, nice, idiot. F you. Bye-bye.
Toodaloo, motherfucker.
Good day, sir. I said good day.
All right. Take care now. Bye-bye then.
Loser.